Are we live on Facebook now?
We are live on Facebook now, yeah. So it's just starting off now. Hey, Facebook.
Hi, Mr. Zuckerberg.
All right, so when we hit 2 o'clock, I guess we can let everyone in, and I'll just kind of hang around here. And if you guys need me, I'll be here. I'll turn off my video, and we'll be all set.
Cool. Okay. Sure, my phone's turned off.
Yeah, I got mine on vibrate right now. It's funny, like during the live broadcast for the investor seminar, we had an echo. Like I had an echo, but I didn't realize I had the regular Zoom call going and then the live call going, and then they were both coming to me, and that's why there was an echo.
Yeah, you're that guy who calls on the AM radio show and you got a blast in the background.
That's right.
And the host will tell you, can you turn it down, please?
Right. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is exciting. Well, we got 5 people waiting. Where is everybody exactly?
5 whole people. We had 69 or 68 people. Who are these? Where are they?
Yeah.
Like I would never like put in all my information and not show up. Well, actually, no, I've done that before. I'm a hypocrite. Never mind.
I've done that too. It's all good. All right, I guess we can get started.
It's easier when it's online.
Yeah, it is a lot easier when it's online.
Right. All right. Joe's gone. Now we can talk about the real stuff. Okay. All right, Sam, you're a host, right? You're good to go. You can share the screen and everything. I'll make sure.
Yeah, should we let everyone in?
Co-host, fabulous. Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty.
I'm sure people will show up as it goes along.
Just admit all. Yeah. All right, and there's one more. That's everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the seminar.
Okay.
Ooh. I didn't mind that so much.
Nice. That was a good little intro, eh? Should ask what song that is and then play it every webinar that we do.
Okay, Sam. Whenever you want to start. I think people will be popping on as we speak, probably for the next few minutes. So, let's see.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
All right, Sam, you're going to start. Guys, welcome to the seminar. As more folks come on, it's great to have you. Thank you for your time. Sam and I will be giving you some really, really good info. Not too much, but just enough to not only get interest, but actually answer a lot of the questions undoubtedly you'll have as first-time home buyers. So, Sam, do your thing, my brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share my screen here. Get going. Start the presentation.
Nice.
Alrighty, awesome. So everyone can see that. It's good.
That's great.
Alrighty, so yeah, as Andrew was saying, thanks for coming out, guys. Welcome to the First Time Home Buyers webinar. So my name is Sam Thompson. I'm a mortgage agent. I work with Joe Bladdock, which you were probably linked here from his site. We're also with Andrew, who's a local real estate expert, so he'll be covering the real estate side. I'll look after the first-time buyer, grants, incentives, all that kind of stuff. So let's get started. So yeah, through this presentation, you're going to learn the mortgage broking process, how to get a mortgage, a lot of the really common mistakes that we see, and how to beat those, and have an advanced first step in getting your home. How to find a down payment if you can't, if you don't already have one. a lot of ways to get some money back, and just some cool incentives that are available to first-time home buyers. So about me, as I said, I work with Joe. I'm a mortgage agent with Verico Mortgages. We're licensed with all banks and lenders and first-time home buying experts. Let's get going. All right, so we're going to look at a case study here. So this is Jennifer and Joseph's story. As I'm going through this, just take a look at the numbers, and if any of it looks familiar to you, this is really a good testimonial for someone that's potentially in your shoes. So they came to one of our seminars just over a year ago. They only had $1,400 in their bank, didn't know their credit score, and their household income was $65,000. So what happened? At the end of the process, they had moved into their house, just months after visiting seminar, with a mortgage of $499 biweekly. So this just shows that this is great. We're here just promoting our services and really just showcasing that they're really helpful, and there's a lot of information you can get from here. So looking at that scenario, you're probably asking, like, where do I start? What's the best place? That's some of the more frequent questions that Joe and myself get asked. So the best thing we can tell you to do is get pre-approved as your first step in your home buying process. So why would you get pre-approved? It avoids disappointment and speeds up the process. What we can do in just a 20 to 30-minute phone call is figure out where you're at credit-wise, where you're at with your assets, how much mortgage you can afford, so that you can approach Andrew with a pre-approval certificate outlining exactly your price range, and really get shopping for a house in a more informed status. It also presents a stronger offer, and the sellers will take you more seriously. So Andrew will know more about that, but it presents a stronger offer if you've already been pre-approved, you've done the background work. This presents a strong offer, and as well, right now we're seeing quite low interest rates, so it can actually guarantee your interest rate for 60, 90, up to 120 days. So if we see the market start to warm back up, as we're assuming it will, you'll still get the really low rates that we're experiencing today. So just look at some of the banks with. We have access to quite a few number of others. Some of these banks you might even recognize as your own bank. So again, reaching out with us, we can look at what bank, if that's what you're most comfortable with, in just staying with who you're currently with, or we can actually get you different styles of mortgages from alternative lenders, but they're all, most of them are actually funded by the bank that you currently work with. So again, we're just giving you more opportunity to capitalize on what kind of mortgage you can get with different types of lenders. So getting pre-approved generally starts with us, either or a follow-up email after this webinar. The entire process can be done virtually. So it's actually really beneficial in this time that we never have to actually meet in person. You don't have to take time off work or time off the couch, as we're seeing now. It really is just super fast. You can do it over the phone. We can do it on FaceTime or Skype if you prefer to have a bit more of a face-to-face connection, on Zoom even. But really, it's accessible anywhere. We can do it many different ways, and all you need to bring to that is going to be a pay stub and photo ID. And then once we get later in the process, you can send the documents over an email, or scan them, fax them to us. Whatever you need, we can facilitate this completely virtually without ever having to meet face-to-face. So we're going to why Canadians use brokers. So a typical analogy that Joe and I like to use is finding mortgages that fit. So the worst thing, especially about being a tall person, is that it's really hard to find t-shirts. They either fit on the shoulders, but you're swimming in it, there's so much space, or it fits on the waist, but it's super tall. It doesn't quite fit right. So what we can do is actually tailor your mortgage to your needs, versus you having to look at what we have to offer and compromise in some areas, like most of the major banks that either you're banking with or you would typically go to start the mortgage to your needs. So we can give you access to more products. So with we actually have quite a different range of types of mortgages we can get you, different rates, different promotions that typically you might not see just going to one bank. And also another benefit of using us is we actually can do all of our assessments, all of our conversations with lenders just from one credit score. So we know that credit score does do a small hit on your credit score, but we can do one simple credit check, and that's valid against all of our lenders. So you don't have to go shopping around getting a new credit check every single lender that you're talking to. We can do all of that for you just on one credit check. Another huge process that we see is that all the borrowers have stories. Everyone that's looking for a mortgage, you're going to have some sort of backstory. So what we can do is actually we can inform the lender of what your position is. So I'll give you an example. There was a client we were working with earlier in March before all of the COVID-19 lockdown. He had a bit of delinquencies, had some rough credit from a few years back. So typically, if you went to a commercial bank, if you went to his bank, he actually stands a pretty good chance of actually getting denied a mortgage because of that. But what we were able to do is find out that he was actually only working seasonally at that time, and since then had secured full-time permanent status. So in communicating that with the lender, actually the next day we had him fully pre-approved, sent him his pre-approval certificate, and now he's actually in the process of looking through what home he can get. So explaining your story is a really big part of getting your mortgage funded, and as I was saying, Joe and myself can vouch for you for all of these different lenders. Again, these are just some of the different mortgages that we can get you. If you're looking for a short-term mortgage, a renovation mortgage, new build, if you're looking to flip your next home, we can help you with all that as well. So there was a study done looking into what the difference was using a mortgage broker versus just going to an institutional lender and dealing directly with your bank. And it said that on an average, clients that used a mortgage broker to get their mortgage, it saved them about $42 a month. So if you break that down daily, it's just over $1. So we like to say that when you get a mortgage with Joe and myself, we actually buy you one Timmy's coffee every day. And I don't know who likes coffee, but I definitely do. So if getting a mortgage would also get me a coffee every single day, I'd hands down go with it every time. So now we've established the difference between a broker and going to the mortgage bankers. We're going to look at some of the mistakes that Joe and myself see a lot in the office that people typically make when they first come to us. So mistake number one is ignoring your credit score, or even just not knowing what it is. It's going to be a big process, a big part of the process in getting your mortgage approved. So just getting a bit more informed about what is involved in a credit score, learning what your credit score is, can start you off on the process with more of an educated start and help you get a basis of what you can expect for the mortgage process. So again, you don't want to get stuck with a bad rate. You can fix your credit even with the bankruptcy or consumer proposal. It's really easy to actually check what your credit score is for free now. A lot of banking apps will do that, as well as sites like Credit Karma. You can go there first and just get an idea of what kind of credit you're looking for, what kind of credit you currently have. So again, if you've gone through a bankruptcy or consumer proposal, we recommend that you follow the 222 rule. So what we see a lot of banks, they won't actually lend you a mortgage until you have 2 credit cards for a minimum of 2 years with a $2,000 balance. So if you have been discharged and haven't done that step, that's going to be the first thing you want to do. So this is the typical range for credit scores. Anything above 6, you're going to have not really any issue in getting a mortgage. Anything less than that, call Joe or myself. We can work with you to figure out what an alternative lender, what kind of rates we can get you, and look to getting you funded into your first home, into your first mortgage. So the breakdown of a credit score. So as you can see from the graph here, that 35% of it is actually credit history. So that's well and over a third of what they use to calculate that score. So any old credit that you have, old credit cards from high school, any of that kind of stuff, it's actually really good to keep those around, if there's not a huge fee to keep that. Because the second that, you close that account, open up a new one, you actually lose all of that credit history. So in keeping those accounts, you actually boost your credit score quite a bit, as well as debt owed, as is the highest, component in how they calculate the score. So actually, if you just want to answer in the chat here, is it better to have a $900 balance on a $1,000 credit card or a $900 balance on a $10,000 credit score? In the chat, see, I don't know. It's straightforward when you think of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer. It's always better to have a $100 balance on a $10,000 credit score, because what people see, when you have $900 on a $1,000 credit score is that you've used 90% of your potential credit. So anytime a bank will offer you, an extension or a credit limit increase, as long as you're staying intelligent and you're staying responsible in your spending. It's actually a good idea to take that advance, because that'll help improve your credit score as well. So moving on, the second mistake we see is not reviewing your option. So mortgages, a lot of people, they just want to go right to their bank because that's what they know, and they want to, be told what are the standard options that are available to me, what are the, quickest ways to just get this done. But what we actually see in using us, we can give you access to actually quite a bit more rates, lenders, different ways to pay, and penalty calculations. So we can really customize the fit to you rather than giving you the same mortgage we're giving everybody else. We can actually tailor it to what your needs are and really get you in a position that is going to not, weigh you down with a mortgage that doesn't quite fit, forcing you to compromise in other areas. So another question we're going to ask, if you want to pop it in the chat, is these two credit rate options. You've probably seen quite lower numbers currently, but is there a difference between 2.84% and 2.99%? So there's actually quite a big difference. So again, this goes back to the example I was saying earlier about the Tim Hortons coffee. So that actually saves you about $1.40 a day, $42 a month, or even $9,500 over the life of your mortgage. So again, choosing us and getting those lower rates, even if it doesn't seem like much on paper, over the lifetime of your mortgage, you can actually get quite a lot of savings in just getting a better rate. So also, as I was saying, there's different banks that you can use. So again, more than 1,000 different mortgage options are available. We don't want you guys to have to be doing all of the homework by yourself. We'll do all that work for you and present you with the best fitted idea of what you can actually afford, what's the best step for you. So payment options, monthly versus biweekly. If you didn't know already, biweekly is definitely a better option in payment frequency. So a lot of the banks, they'll try and sign you with a monthly mortgage payment. They'll sell it as it's easier, it comes out once a month. That's all you have to worry about. But as we can see from the graph here, the blue chart is actually going to be if you're on a traditional monthly basis, but the yellow is actually going to be biweekly. So there's quite a number of savings. You pay way less in interest, and actually you can shorten the life of your mortgage just by choosing the biweekly option versus a monthly payment option. So penalty calculations. So each bank calculates them differently. So knowing what you're looking for before you sign a mortgage can be really helpful, because we know life happens. There could be scenarios where you're forced to break your mortgage early, and we don't want to see you guys get stuck with a $18,000 to $20,000 penalty just for having to break your mortgage. So again, we'll try and find all of these small things that you may not think about, or you just may not want to worry about, and really trusting us to get you those low penalty calculations. So mistake number 3 is borrowing too much. So you don't want to borrow too much and become house poor. We want you to be able to order in on DoorDash, rent a movie, extend that Netflix subscription. We want you to be able to live a bit while you're borrowing. Live a bit while you're living, instead of being stuck, being house poor. So borrowing before you buy. So again, if you're planning on getting a car loan, your first step that you're going to want to do is get your mortgage first. Now, if you already have a car loan and you're looking to get a mortgage, don't worry, we can work with you to still get that mortgage approved and funded. But if you're in the process of thinking about getting a car, definitely wait until after you have a mortgage if it's going to go on loan. We can see even payments as low as $400 a month can actually pretty seriously affect your maximum buying potential with a mortgage. So keep that in mind when you're reaching out to Joe and myself to get one. So forgetting about closing costs. So we're actually going to email all of you guys this. Usually we have a sheet that we'll hand out when these are in person, but we're going to email all of these to you so that you have an idea of what kind of costs you can expect on top of getting the mortgage actually funded, such as lender or lawyer fees, sorry, and all that kind of stuff. We'll break it down for you in a list and get that to you right away. And mistake number 5 is easy enough, just not getting pre-approved. We see a lot of people that really don't see the importance of this step or even just skip it, but really there's only advantages really to getting pre-approved. It's not a long process. Then once you do the full pre-approval, you get signed, you know what you're looking for, we can send you to Andrew, and then right away you guys can start shopping for what kind of house you can afford and make realistic offers on places that are within your borrowing amount. And then after that, it's great to set up your buying team. So again, don't rely on any sort of sellers, agents, because their duty, first of all, is going to be for the home seller. It's not going to be for you. So again, using myself, Joe, and Andrew, it doesn't cost you anything. And once you start working with us, you become our first priority. Technically, you could almost look at it that we're looking for you. We have your best interest in heart. So it's good for every step of this process to be using your buying team rather than relying on the seller's lawyer or seller's agent. So we're going to look at a second case study here. So in this case, the home was worth $329,000. The down payment was only $16,000, and their biweekly mortgage payment was $696. So after only 5 years, the market value of the home had increased to $419. They had $339,000 mortgage left, so they could sell that home and take $140,000 in equity to their next home just in 5 years. So real estate is going to be a great investment. I'll save all the real estate stuff for Andrew because he knows way more about it than I do. But it's going to be such a great investment. There's nothing quite as exponential that you can invest in, such as real estate. It'll provide you the best return on investment. So now we're going to start running into some grants, rebates, credits, refunds. Basically the reason that a lot of you are here. It's the best part of the presentation that I have for you today. So let's get through some of these. So first-time buyers are actually entitled to a refund of approximately $1,000 if they buy an energy-efficient home. So also, if you buy a home that's it's a resale, but you increase the energy efficiency by I believe it's 5 to 10%, then you can be entitled to a refund as well. So what this looks like, if you were to purchase a home with $425,000, the refund would be about to $1,100. So again, it's a great step to be aware of. So the land transfer tax rebate, that is one of the fees that's included in our closing costs worksheet. It's a big one to not forget. We can actually get you the land transfer tax rebate, and we can actually get you that rebate up front versus already funding it and waiting for the finances later. In Ontario, that refund works out to approximately $4,000. Anyone buying in Toronto, they actually kick in an extra $3,700. So the total rebate, if you're buying a home in Toronto, is $7,700. Assuming that you're a first-time home buyer, you will qualify for that land transfer tax rebate. So again, your home, if it's valued at $425,000, you'll get a refund of $7,700. New to Canada benefit, yes. So they've actually, if you have just immigrated to Canada, you've been here for up to 5 years, and you have, your permanent residency, they actually reduced the employment requirements to just 3 months, and there's also no actual credit score required. So they'll look at bank statements, insurance statements, phone bills in order to calculate that credit. So again, if you're chatting with Joe and myself, don't forget to mention if you fall within that category, and we can apply for, you know, a little bit looser qualifying rates to get your mortgage. HST rebates. So if you're looking to purchase a new home from a builder, or even you're in the process of building one yourself, there is an HST rebate that is available. So if your new home were to cost $425,000, the rebate could work out to be $33,000. So again, there is a process. I think it's 5 or 6 months to actually get that money back. But again, if you're building a new home, purchasing a new home, let us know, and we can get you in the application process for that rebate. So tax credit available to first-time home buyers. So if you are a first-time home buyer in Canada, you can claim an income tax credit of up to $5,000. So looking at this example, if you had an $85,000 household income, that works to $2,100 back in your pocket. So if you make more than that, you'll get more back. Free 1-year home warranty available to first-time home buyers. So some of our lenders will actually offer you a 1-year home warranty for the first year of owning your home. Again, ask us how to apply for that, how to receive that warranty. It'll cover your home heating, air conditioning, electrical, water heating, and plumbing. You don't want to get stuck having to pay that in your first year. And Murphy's Law, if anything's going to go wrong, it'll be within your first year of owning your home. So again, chat with us about how to apply and qualify for that warranty to just have yourself covered. So it actually covers up to $10,000 in repairs, and there's no actual inspections required. So it's really great to take advantage of that warranty. What you can actually do if you're having difficulties coming up with your down payment is you can actually withdraw from your RRSP completely tax-free. So it's actually been increased to $35,000 that each home buyer can withdraw from their RRSP, or $50,000 per couple. And again, that's completely tax-free. So that'll save you an additional $21,000 in tax just from withdrawing from that RRSP. So to qualify for that one, you just have to be a first-time home buyer, either a person with disability or purchasing a home for someone with a disability, and have not owned any property within the last 4 calendar years. So how to get a down payment, even if you don't already have one. So again, what we typically see is people, they come in with great credit score, they come in with great jobs, great income. The one thing that they're lacking is usually savings. How do I, break that down payment? How do I get into owning my first home? So there's actually a municipal grant available for all these areas listed. Again, I believe it is on one of the handouts that we'll email to you after this presentation. And a lot of them work in forgivable home equity loans. So some of them are, a percentage for your down payment. Others are just a sum towards your down payment. And again, most of them tend to be forgivable. So after 20 years, it's considered fully paid off. You don't have to actually pay anything as long as you're staying in it for 20 years. So again, if it's sort of a forever home that you're looking for, it's a great program to take advantage of if you see yourself living in there for at least 20 years. Other ways will be accessing line of credit. There's some rent-to-own programs, gifted equity from seller, money from family, and if you need to get some cashback mortgages, that will help you get that down payment. So in total, looking at all of the facts and figures, there's a lot of information. Don't worry, just reach out with us. We can help you navigate, which ones you qualify for, which ones we would recommend you, giving a further application, all that kind of stuff. But in total, if you could apply for all of these investments, grants, all that kind of stuff, we would save you about $52,000 in savings. So again, basically, we don't need you to know all of this information. The point of this is that we know all this information. So by working with us, we can help navigate you, which ones you qualify for. We don't want you guys to be racking your brains, trying to write down all of these super fast. I know I went through them pretty quick. We have this information and it's readily available. We want to partner with you and get you get you to qualify for as many of these as you can, just to maximize the money that you get back. So lastly, we're going to look at the first-time home buyer incentive. So how does this work? So again, this is an incentive introduced by the government of Canada, giving 5% for a first-time buyer of a resale home, and then 5 or 10% of a new construction home. And basically how this works is it provides the down payment in a shared home equity loan. So the government will share in that 5% down. It'll actually, they'll cover it for you. You will not have to put any money forward. If you want to add your own finances, your own savings, your own money as a down payment on top of the 5, you can do that as well. But this is a great way if you're finding it hard to reach that down payment amount, is the government can actually give you that in the shared home equity loan. So we're going to look at two situations here. So the one on the left is without the first-time home buying incentive, and the right one is using this incentive. So again, a lot of the facts and figures are all kind of the same until you get to the bottom where we look at the insurance premium. So with the first-time home buyer incentive, you're actually saving on the mortgage insurance premium. And over the length of your mortgage, in a year, you're going to save, based on this scenario, $1,400 or $123 in monthly payments to your mortgage. So again, using this paired with your own savings even can really increase the amount of home that you own right off the start on the down payment. It can speed up the process of paying your mortgage back and can save you quite a bit in interest payments, biweekly or per month. So what properties are eligible for this incentive? So any new construction, resale home, single family home, semi-detached, duplex, triplex, fourplex, basically any sort of property that has a home on it, it's readily available for a lot of the people that are interested in this program. So who can apply? So any Canadian citizens, permanent residents, non-permanent residents that are authorized to work in Canada. So to qualify for this, your household income is maxed at $120,000. And again, your borrowing amount is actually maxed at 4 times your household income. So as long as you fit within those guidelines, then, and at least one of you is a first-time home buyer, then this incentive is readily available to you. And with chatting with Joe and myself, we can help you apply for this and take you through the steps to getting this incentive on your mortgage. So as we're winding down to the end of my presentation, we want to give you guys all a chance to win your down payment. So as a thank you, we're going to actually toss in the chat before the end of this presentation, a sign up where we'll just collect your name, your address, all that information, and we're going to be sending out scratch tickets. So again, they're the simple scratch tickets that you get at any sort of corner store, gas stations, but the prize is up to $10,000. So we'd love to send that out to you as a thank you for taking some time on your Wednesday to tune in here, listen to us, and again, hopefully win $10,000 and get a boost on your down payment for your home. So remember to get pre-approved. If you want to call or text the office, both numbers up there, you can do that with them, or visit the Facebook page that you signed up with this. Remember to like and subscribe to that page, as well as we're gonna put a calendar link in the chat box as well, where you can schedule a 20 to 30 minute follow-up call with either Joe or myself. So thanks for listening. That's the end of my presentation.
Thanks, Sam. It's a lot. But like Sam said, very important. It's not for you guys to write down and make sure that you know everything, you can remember everything. And certainly you don't want to do that with what I'm about to tell you. But the point is to show that, yes, we do have the numbers covered. There are a lot of different options. And I was looking at the chat. Thank you guys for some of your questions. Victor DeVorn, and I think we had 1 or 2 other folks. We'll be talking about that in the Q&A, the rent-to-own aspect of things and finding down payment. That's a big hurdle for a lot of people. But what I'm going to be talking about is, Sam, I always say this, the mortgage person, in this case Sam or Joe, both of them, I've known Joe certainly for a long time, everything they say is a lot more important than it sounds. And that's actually one of the reasons he mentions the numbers and such. They take care of that stuff. However, it is important. And I always tell people the 5th mistake is the biggest one, the one with it not getting pre-approved. The thing is, in these seminars, we have folks that are sometimes in the past have been 1, 2, 3 years out from purchasing. Just the reality of life, whatever the situations. However, if they actually do get something like a pre-approval, at least sit down with Sam or Joe or both and get a feel for where you're at right now, what the situation is, and you have a game plan. Everything changes. Everything changes when you actually have a game plan, because quite often what we've also seen is sometimes people are actually much closer to being able to purchase than they thought they were, but because they weren't at this moment, they thought, oh, it's never going to happen, and they put it off for a long time. You don't want to be the one doing that. And one of the reasons is what I'm going to be talking about right now. So I'm Andrew. I handle the real estate side of things. I've been working with these first-time homebuyer seminars for quite a while. And again, let me switch my, share my screen here. And I'm going to go into my spiel right here. View, present. Okay. As soon as that opens up. And I always say thank you guys for watching these. You know, we've done so many of these in person, still doing these online now. And yeah, we appreciate your time. We hope, and honestly, we're confident the information is very good. And you'll see why already what Sam has told you is very important. Literally in just, what, a half hour, you've saved at least $4,000 to $8,000 off the bat. Most of my clients do that. And this is me. So I'm a realtor. Obviously, I'm very, very important with the big contrast up top. I always try to put that in, you know, make myself feel better about myself. More importantly, at the bottom left there, you'll see a couple of sites you can kind of put that in, or you know what, maybe I'll put that in the chat at the end. You guys can check out some of the testimonials from my clients. Some of those clients, by the way, were just like you from first-time homebuyer seminars. I like putting that in because, you know, it gives you guys a little bit of encouragement, and I'm going to encourage you some more here. At the bottom right is the reason why I do this business. Real estate is very interesting, no doubt. I love what I do for a living. However, down there's me and my wife at a TIFF concert, not a concert, but a movie premiere. Woody Harrelson somewhere in the back. There was actually a very good movie. That was a few years ago. And on the bottom right is me and my son, and our son, I should say. My wife did have him, but we watch cartoons. That's us hanging out. Why I mention that is much like Sam, much like Joe. You know, we either have families or we're human beings, and we do this business in this business for a reason. That's that reason. Chances are you guys have reasons probably very similar to what we have in why you wanted to get a homeowner and start building equity in your life. So, guys, I'm going to tell you about the housing market. I'm going to start a little bit behind. And again, don't worry about the numbers as much as the general theme of what I'm saying, because the numbers I'll show you towards the end are literally from like last week. That's important. So 2 perspectives to the housing market, as there are 2 perspectives to any story. You got what's actually happening, and you get the dramatic, exaggerated version, which is important, particularly these past few years, because as you guys know, not as many people buy newspapers, not as many people buy magazines. And what they want to do, we want to get your interest. We want to get you clicking on things. We want to get you subscribing things online. We want to get your attention. Negative, big stories, exaggerations is what get people's attention and sells newspapers. I want you guys to avoid that. 3 points to remember about the GTA housing market. 1, a balanced market equals 20,000 active listings. Again, don't memorize that. Just keep it in the back of your mind. This also means 4 to 6 months of inventory. All that means is if we stopped listing everything and anything at this moment, it would take 4 to 6 months to sell everything that is in the market right now. That is what 4 to 6 months of inventory is. That's what 20,000 active listings in GTA is. That's a balanced market. Right now, not balanced, and it rarely even gets there, usually only in the summer, because it's a GTA. Realtors, Toronto Real Estate Board realtors, overall sell 90 to 100,000 homes every single year. Pretty much every year. Occasionally, it's a bit higher in some of the really, really busy years, slightly lower in other ones. But it's important for the market and for the city, Toronto as a whole, plus the GTA in general, because of how much money is involved in selling homes, the taxes involved, the people involved that are working, everything from construction to lawyers to myself, everybody involved. There's a lot of money at stake. The city, the government wants this to continue happening. Also important, Toronto Real Estate Board shows us over about 100 years of history, they're repeating market cycles. Every 20 to 25 years, there's a market cycle, which is exactly what happened just a few years ago. And before that, late 80s, early 90s, if some of you might remember. So why I mention that, everything is pretty normal. And you might notice the normal word comes up quite a bit. What has happened in the past bit? The last cycle we had began in 2013. 20, 25 years ago before that, it happened again. From that up to about 2016, what happened is inventory had a hard time keeping up. This is what actually happened. Not exaggerated. This is the actual numbers and things that happened. So you know what the market has been doing. Appreciation was double digit in some areas. There are areas gaining 20 to 30% appreciation on their home in a year. Now, imagine that for a second. In a year, you bought it for $400,000. In a year later, it's worth about $520,000. That's crazy was there Not sustainable, but it actually was happening. That's the real estate market. Sam was talking about the ability for the market to increase and in equity to increase. Now, when that happens with that, of course, the news, the media need to get your attention. So what they do, a lot of negative press, government scrutiny, because they got to, get their hands involved to make sure that they look like they're doing something. And the real estate market is a topic of conversation on a regular basis. It usually is, but it was becoming more so. If you guys were paying attention at all in terms of the market, end of 16, beginning of 17, when it was the craziest, it was everywhere. On the news, I couldn't stop hearing about the market. And some of it was so exaggerated. All came to a head at the end of 2016. And here's where I really want you guys to focus. This is why I do the presentation. Whoops, not that. Here. You guys remember this. This was just, what, a month ago. I probably still happening in some areas. For the most part, you can get toilet paper pretty much anywhere. Now, what's the problem with this, in all seriousness? The problem is, sorry, I got to minimize my thingy here. Was there actually a shortage in toilet paper? No, there wasn't. Why didn't this happen? Psychology. Consumer psychology is huge. And as those of you who might not be in the market, let me make sure. Can you guys still see my screen okay? No.
I think you might have exited out of screen sharing.
Apologies, guys. And we're back. Again, as I was mentioning, toilet paper. No shortage. Everything was fine. What happened? People panicked. What should they have done? So maybe it's an exaggerated response. Wash your hands. Don't watch the news. Don't freak out. It's very important. Why am I mentioning to you on a first-time homebuyer seminar? Because that's exactly what happens in the real estate market as well. Watch this. This is you won't see anywhere. 2016, late of 2016, they noticed something very interesting happening in search engines and people searching online. Watch this. This is the search engine questions, people putting in information like bubble bursting, housing market crash, unaffordable housing, those kinds of things. And so over the years, there's always a lot of interest in real estate on the internet. However, look at the end of 2016, if you can see my little mouse here, exponential increase. People were thinking about nothing but. It was a topic of everybody's conversation at the end of 2016. And if you're in the market like me, end of 16 was very, very busy, very, very crazy. Now, here's something very interesting. Buyers on a regular basis, CMHC did a survey of buyers asking them, because it's a topic at hand, why is the market so expensive? Why is housing so expensive? What is causing the housing to be so expensive? And this was their survey. This is actual people like you guys, home buyers looking to buy a house. The first thing mentioned was the city is attractive. That's a given. Toronto's awesome. The GTA is an awesome place to live. The second, not land availability, not population, not speculators, not employment, nothing, which was very high. Foreign investment was second on the list. Why? If you recall, it was constantly mentioned in the news. It was constantly mentioned. BC had a whole spiel about it. They passed laws against it. Now, what's the reality? That's what people thought. That's a perception. What's the reality? Look, I did my little squiggle at the bottom there. The actual percentage of transactions by non-resident ownership, 3.4%. 4.8 is Vancouver. Mind you, even Vancouver's not that crazy, but it's higher than us. So 3.4, is that a big deal? Is that a huge portion of the market? No. And some of these aren't just people, people like to blame China or India or something. These are people who might be here on a contract and purchasing something, but they're not Canadian citizens. So instead of renting, you say, hey, it's a nice market. Might as well buy a condo and stay here while I'm working. So the point being, what the perception was is very different than the reality. But unfortunately, the perception plays a big role psychologically, hence the lack of toilet paper a month ago. What happened in 2017? Here's the reality. Very low inventory, record low for the year, for actually all of Trev history. 4,000, remember 20,000 is the balance? January starts 10, 11 usually. This is 4,000, very low. Demand continued to be huge right over Christmas. Inventory can't keep up. Everybody's overly emotional. Buyers are overly emotional. Sellers are getting a little bit greedy, a lot greedy. Year ended up front loaded, meaning more sales happened in the first half of the year. It was really nuts. It was totally out of balance. Here's the thing. At the start of April, the market naturally began to shift, because that's what happens every time there's a cycle. It's a cycle. And so the government also decided they need to step in middle of April. So between the market shifting itself naturally and the government stepping in with new rules to try to cool down the market didn't just cool down, it corrected completely to the point where from middle of April to beginning of June, it went from crazy to a balanced market. In what, 3 months? Way too fast. Some people lost equity. That's what happened. If you heard about people walking away from homes because their deposit was lower than the equity they lost in the house they would have purchased, that's what happened. That's what happened in the year. The second half of 2017 was actually quite normal. People were still recovering from the shock psychologically, but that was it. And again, as of June, moving forward, normal market. 2018, normal. Normal is the operative term here. But what did you hear about 2018? Maybe you guys are first-time homebuyers. Maybe you guys are actually paying attention in terms of the market back then. And what were you hearing about 2018? The first thing, of course, is what gets the eyeballs. Huge drop in sales, housing market in deep trouble. Why? Because they looked at the number 92,000 sales in 2017. They looked at 77,000 sales in 2018. Huge drop. Nobody considers pre-construction, by the way. Nobody pays attention to details because we just want to get big headlines to get the click. What actually happened? First quarter of 2017 had way too many sales. The normal was 2018, which is a 10,000 difference. That's 10,000 right there. Now, the fall of 2017 had mortgage rule changes that were taking effect in the beginning of 2018. Now, if you're going to lose a bunch of buying power and you're already pre-approved, which is what everybody should be, towards the end of 2017, are you going to wait till 2018 where your buying power goes down 15, 20%? Or are you going to buy a house, maximum house, and build a bunch of equity much, much faster? Of course you're going to do that. About 5,000 extra people did that just to avoid the mortgage rule change. And there's 5,000, 10,000, there's the difference. The point is not to bore you with numbers. I'm not a big fan of numbers myself. That's why I don't do mortgages. But it's important to know this because there's a reason for why things happen. It's not just craziness. It's just the market collapsing. No, it's actually very easily explained. 19, normal market, normal number of sales. The only thing that was weird is the summer didn't slow down. It's important because literally it takes us right into almost last week. The summer didn't slow down, which means that there's no little hump at the end of summer before the school after school begins and picks up again. Nothing yet. It went right straight into December. December and November of last year were very busy, amazingly busy. You'd think Christmas and such, people usually slow down. Not last year. Why it's important to you. Look at the numbers. Don't worry about the too many numbers. The point being, look at the arrows pointing upward. November, homes sold up 14%. Average price up 7% from the year before. December up 17%, up 11% in price. Active listings way down, new listings way down both months. The point being, huge demand, eating up inventory. What does that mean? It means that this year, we started about 75 to 80% of normal inventory. Not like 2017. People told you that, they lied. Not true. But still, the second busiest spring market in decades, actually. Why am I telling you this? Well, now it's COVID. So we're expecting the second busiest spring market, and right about beginning of March, end of February, people start talking about this buyer situation that apparently has been around since December or even before that. Not everyone mentioned that. But now we got the second busiest market, and COVID-19 happens. Here's what actually happened, just in case any of you guys are getting wrong information. I know because I keep hearing about it, even in the past week or so, people tell me all kinds of stuff that doesn't make sense. We had a very busy market, and look, speaking very seriously, because I actually have lost people due to COVID, not just here, but in other countries. If I was going to time a pandemic in terms of the housing market, I would time it right at the spring market. It's absolutely at its highest, and then the COVID thing slows down demand. So we're low inventory, which usually means high price and high demand, but we're also at low demand because of the COVID situation. People aren't buying. They're not sure about employment, or they're just scared. So what happened? It just slowed down everything to a halt. I had a listing myself, lots of showings. The day we were supposed to take offers and expecting a high price, we heard about daycare closures, school closure, and everything else. That night, not a peep, not a phone call, nothing. And I knew that by the afternoon, that I knew we weren't going to get any attention. The next day, 6 to 7 showings on the same property. Why do I mention that to you? Because that's the reality of psychology playing into the market. That's how much the market is malleable with psychology. However, long-term, it's actually quite good. I sold that listing, and I'll give you an example of why it's important to get a property as soon as possible because of that. Sellers right now want to sell, and I want to tell you guys about that now because, in all honesty, in the past month or so, I've been saying this, and not nearly as many people as should have taken the opportunity to actually purchase a home right now because there are increasing pockets of opportunity. And guys, they're not going to last forever. It's not that you're getting some bargain deal, but I'll explain this to you. This is March. I'm going to tell you about March first, because March is when everything began to just first half of March versus second half of March. You're going to find these stats anywhere because I got them from a specific company that does showings for homes in the GTA. They're about close to half of all showings in the GTA these guys do. Here's the stats. down 66% first half to second half in terms of showings, down 70-something% in terms of showings from last week of February to the last week of March. Why are these numbers important to you? If you're buying at that time, how much less competition do you have? Seriously, 66% of your competition is gone. Interesting. You think you might be able to get a better deal, or maybe you'll negotiate with the seller. Maybe you'll get a house that you want with the conditions that you want. Offer registration, same thing. First half versus second half, 60% drop. Less competition on offers as well. And overall, last week of February versus last week of March, 75% drop. Now, are we there now? No. Here's where I'm really, really making it worth your while listening to this. This is April. Stats came out yesterday morning. Notice the huge drop in sales and the complete lack of drop in average price. This is where you start thinking about real estate as not just purchasing a home for your family, which is important, but also as an actual investment. A worldwide pandemic drops the sales 67% versus April of last year, and the price, nothing happens. Nothing changes with the price. You think it would drop. It didn't. New listings way down. Active listings way down, which would mean that if the demand was normal, we'd be in a buyer's market. We'd be getting bargains all over the place. But that's not the case. Why? Because of COVID. Inventory is down. Buyer demand is down at the same time. It equals itself out, which is very interesting. Now, these are showings. Look what's happening in April now. This is important for you guys that are first-time home buyers. You need to know what's happening right literally now in the market. Up and down, very, very busy from February right until the middle of March. March 10th-ish is when we started hearing about closures after the spring break. If you guys watching the news, that's when this thing started to happen. So notice that March went down. And for a while, for the end of March and the first week or so of April, that was the new bottom. There were showings, things were still selling, but it was very low. The orange is the showings, the blue is offers. So you see how low it is. But notice something towards the end here. This is taking you right into May 1st, so this is pretty new stuff. The showings from beginning of April to the end of April to now, this week, have been rising steadily. Well, why? Remember the toilet paper? Remember the psychology? It's because we're hearing news. Hey, we're going to be opening things. Hey, construction people are going back. Hey, this is happening, and we're expecting this to this and this. Naturally, people start to feel a bit better about themselves to go, hey, well, listen, we're not going to be locked down for too long. This is going to happen. Showings are happening again. So what does it mean for you guys? Maybe a little bit more competition, but not nearly as much as a normal market. You guys have serious pockets of opportunity here. Watch this. This is literally last week versus the week before to prove the point here. Showings up 19%, offer registrations up 23%. Notice new and exclusive MLSs. I have access to an exclusive only listing system, meaning that you guys don't have access because it's not public. I have a whole system showing things that are going to be hitting the market soon, pre-construction. Maybe they're not quite finished cleaning up yet, but they're available. I have access to that. Point being, exclusive up, MLS is up, and solds are up. Everything is starting to pick up. Is it going to go back to normal? No, we're not going to be normal for a little while. But things are moving upwards. And the GTA, the housing market, is amazingly strong, almost bulletproof. You guys that are first-time home buyers, you got to see this stuff. You want to be able to take advantage of this if you can. Now, admittedly, anytime in the GTA is a good time to buy. Sounds salesy. It's the truth. However, right now, there are pockets of opportunity. You may even be able to help out a seller who wants to sell their home now, looking, hey, look, I'm clean. I've wiped off everything. Come see the house. Buy it because I need to move on with my life. Just imagine helping somebody like that. I've had clients like that, and it's a big help when somebody comes in with an offer. Stats. Look at 2015 versus 2018. Ignore 17 because it was a crazy year, but even if you can put that in, look at the differences in price. It keeps going up. You don't even want to look at 1973. Avoid looking at it. You see that? That's the price of a car. That's how much homes were back then. Moving onward, same exact numbers, but just now in a grade. If you ignore 2017, go from 16 to 18, look at the difference. 19 was up again. It just didn't have the stats for it on this particular graph. It's up again, constantly moving up. Notice the bump in the low 90s. That was the last market cycle I was talking about. Now, is the price going to go down? GTA population growth. Look at the estimates. You think the housing is going to keep up with 10 million people? Nope. What's the price going to do? Keep going up. Just like London, Manhattan, UK, Tokyo, Moscow. Government of Canada immigration stats. That's going to probably slow down this year because of COVID, but still look at that. And look at this. Obviously, it shows how awesome GTA is. Of all the people in 2019 immigrants, over 300,000, 44% chose the GTA. I can't blame them. I would too. I have. Look at this, guys. If you're in business, this isn't going to make as much sense to you, but nonetheless, it's interesting. It shows value. This is record low office vacancy in North America. Tightest office market in North America is in Toronto, and there are millions of square feet being built in the city of Toronto. Now, what's that going to do? Why would you build that much unless you know the city's thriving, the market's going to be thriving? I'm going to be bringing in thousands upon thousands of people to staff these offices, to staff the companies that are going to be taking over these offices, and what's going to happen with the real estate market? The ripple effect, the rest of the GTA. Is it going to lower the market price or is it going to increase it? It's going to increase it. It's going to keep increasing. There's a lot of upside yet, and I don't think a lot of people always realize that. Here's what I want you guys to be encouraged. Some of you asked those questions about, we're renting right now. We know about down payment. Look, there's a will, there's a way, and yes, it might take you a little while. This is your encouragement. These people, I use them at investor seminars, these examples, because they're not investors. These are simple, just people trying to get a house, and look what has happened with them. This is you guys. This is you guys in a few years. Maybe this is you guys in just a few weeks. First example, for first-time buyers, a teacher couple. 4-bedroom townhome for $340,000 in the fall of 2017, west side of Toronto. Current value, $470 to $480. Simple people, 3 kids, large family, lots of expenses. These are not investors. They just want to live life and enjoy a house. They're wonderful folks. I remember them. I talk to them regularly. Equity gain in about 2 years is $130,000 to $140,000 plus the mortgage principal. So probably about $160,000 to $170,000. A family saved $170,000 in about 2 years. Who does that? Number 2, amazing story. Woman, she works at Scarborough General Hospital. Amazing woman in the healthcare department. Shout out to the healthcare people, especially at this time. So we were able to get her a condo. So her son co-signed. Guys, co-signing. Think about co-signing. We'll discuss that maybe in the Q&A. Think about that. Son helped. Mom needed a place. He got mom a place. Beautiful. Condo in 2015 for $194,000. Condo in Scarborough. I know Scarborough well. Her value is $400,000 to $410,000. One woman with one job at a hospital has gained almost $250,000 in about 4 years. Now it's about 4.5 years. How long do you think it would take her to save that kind of money on her own without a property? 10 years? 20 years? $250,000. She's sitting pretty. That condo is a nice place. The third example here, same thing. Teacher, $263,000 on her own, one salary. She bought a place. Now it's worth $400,000 to $410,000. Joe actually refinanced that place a little while ago because it's got lots of equity, and she might be buying another bigger home sometime soon. Why? Because of equity, because she's paid the bills, and she was able to get into the market, and she's built that much equity already. The other example I could easily use was the one I sold just last week. At the worst possible time, we had to sell at the lowest price we could consider, way lower than we wanted. But here's what happened. I sold a house to these people in 2015 for $365,000. They sold it now 5 years later for I think it was $560,000 or so. With mortgage principal included, they've saved over $200,000 of equity. Over $200,000 of equity. And they sold at the worst possible time because of the situation that happened. We got screwed over by a couple of buyers. The point being, it's an amazing investment. Sam mentioned it. Real estate, especially in the GTA, is an amazing investment. This is you guys. Now you've seen the reality of the market. Let's talk about the home buying process. I'll try to move along. I don't want to take too long. This is questions that this particular subject are questions I get on regularly. When we had in-person seminars on a regular basis, somebody would come up to me and ask me about the home buying process, and they skipped something by accident, or whoever they're using at the time didn't walk them through this. This is the home buying process, guys. I'm keeping it as simple as possible and as thorough as possible. Just a few minutes. So everything starts after the pre-approval, or at least at the same time as the pre-approval. We can meet you guys all at the same time. Now it's Zoom. We can easily do this, everybody at the same time. The point being, you want to know where you're at financially. The pre-approval with Sam and Joe, you need to get on it, guys. Honestly, I can't overemphasize it, and it's free, and they do it 10 times faster than a bank does. I'll leave that alone. So we meet up. We get your criteria, wants and needs in your financing. That's important. The wants and needs is a big difference. You guys know that. We can discuss that in person. We find your timeline, just like Joe and Sam do with your mortgages. I find out your timeline. Where you're at, when do you actually want to do it, that kind of thing. When can you do it, which is very important. It has to work with you, first and foremost. Once the financing is done, we do something called buyer education. Buyer education now, a lot of it's done online, but not entirely. People are still showing there's COVID-related things that we do to make everything as safe as possible, so that's fine. The point being, I need you guys to actually see the properties, especially the ones that you like, in person. Yes, we do the dollhouse. Yes, we do the 3D virtual tour. I have it on my listings right now. But when you see some homes that you like, and we'll pick out some, ideally as soon as possible. We look at them and you get a feel. What does this home look like on digital, on pictures? And what does it feel like when you're actually inside? Is the kitchen really as big as it looks, or is it actually not that big because it was a wide lens camera that was used? You need to know this. Also, you need to get a feel for what a bungalow, if you're in that position, for example, a bungalow versus a side split versus a two-story. You may be able to say, you know what, I really don't like this layout. Let's never discuss this one again. Fantastic. You know how much time we just saved on a home search? Finding out what a property is like, seeing it, and then seeing what it's sold for later, especially, gives you an idea of what the value is. You'll never wonder about value. You see a house priced low, that's priced low. I know that because that kind of house usually sells at this much. You'll be telling me what the price is going to sell for. Very interesting. So that's buyer education. Then you play wait and see. You've been pre-approved. You know about home values, and we've discussed areas and that kind of thing. All we do now is wait to see if something's on the market that you like. You make time to see things. That's a biggie. Because guys, let's face it, even now in this market, yes, it may sit for a week or two. It may sit for a day. You never know. You want to make sure that this is a particular important part of your life, and you make yourself available as you can. And of course, online is a lot of this stuff. When we see the one, we discuss the area, this building, if it's a condo, conditions closing, we see what things have been selling for. You know exactly what the price should be. And then we hover in there, make an offer. Now, in this market, if you guys take advantage in the next month or so, in the next few weeks, there's likely negotiations, likely your offer is going to get accepted with some conditions that you like. We're going to put in the proper conditions specifically to your situation. And then the conditional period begins. The conditional period begins with the acceptance of your offer, and within 24 hours, guys, remember this, within 24 hours, you need to make a deposit for the home. It's going to go in the listing brokerage's trust account. It goes towards the price of the house. You don't lose it or anything of that nature. But it usually is between 2 to 5% of the price of the house. I've gotten away, while giving a good story, with less than that. But nonetheless, it's usually $5,000 to $10,000 that you guys need to have access to. You can give a draft to myself or drop it off at the office within 24 hours of acceptance. If you don't, you could lose the deal. It's very important, and everyone knows that. If it's in some investment somewhere, when you go out house hunting, you want to make sure you have at least that amount ready within at least 24 hours notice. Excuse me, maximum 24 hours notice. Now, within 24 hours of acceptance, that's done. Financing is firmed up. We can waive that condition. And chances are, when you're already pre-approved, the financing gets done really quickly because it's already done for you. It's a very important thing when you put in an offer to be financially pre-approved. If it's a house or something that you need an inspection done on, you get the inspection done, usually between $350 and $500 or so. Assuming that goes well, you can waive that condition as well. If it's a condo, it's important to get the status certificate reviewed. Here's something you can't skip, guys, in all seriousness, especially if you're buying an older condo. You want to know if there's any lawsuits against the corporation. Maybe somebody's slip and fall and they got $2 million waiting for them. Maybe people haven't been paying their maintenance fees for the past 2 years properly, and as soon as you move in the next year, your maintenance fees triple in price or something. I've seen it happen. It's very important. And some buildings have red flags on them that don't do very well financially. You want to make sure the reserve fund is good. Who does that? The lawyer's assistant. And I have lawyers actually do this for free, as long as you use them for the transaction if and when you buy, by the way. So assuming that goes well, the inspection's well, your financing is all done, as it should be, because you're dealing with Sam and Joe. We waive the conditions, the place is yours. If there are any issues, with the building, any issues with the inspection, what happens is we do something called a mutual release. Nothing gets taken off your deposit, and you get your deposit returned within 10 business days, usually faster because nobody wants to hold on to your money, trust me. Now, assuming that doesn't happen and things actually do go well, deal's firm. Sold firm, there's a couple of visits prior to closing. You sign your mortgage papers with Joe or Sam, probably somewhere halfway between now and the closing time. A few days before closing, you meet your lawyers. I got plenty of good ones, as do Joe and Sam, that you can go to that deal with real estate. You'll be meeting with Joe to do a bunch of mortgage papers, which is all the mortgage stuff. You'll walk through everything, so there's no questions. And you should obviously meet with the lawyers, do a letter of direction, sign off everything, and then you wait till the closing day. Closing day, you get your keys. Lawyers do all the work. All the money gets sent back and forth from the lender to that place. All the lawyers take care of that. Usually, early afternoon, you get your keys to the house. On closing day, I'm on speed dial. We've already spoken a couple of days before. You won't hear from me closing day. However, I'm on speed dial, meaning if you need anything, you call me. You want me to nudge somebody, whether it be Joe or another mortgage lender or whatever it is. Maybe it's the lawyer who needs another phone call to get things moving along. I've done it before. I'm on speed dial for that work. Other than that, you won't hear from me until the next day or two, but I follow up to ask you if the stainless steel appliances are in fact still stainless steel. And if not, I deal with that, not you. So all this to mean you equals happy. How are we doing on time here? Okay, Q&A coming up. Guys, in all seriousness, if you saw my video, I meant what I said, and I'll say it again. Why did you just listen to everything that Very Handsome, obviously, highly caffeinated man said? And first of all, I mentioned before, I don't like numbers. I'm not a numbers guy. I wanted you guys to know what the market actually does, what is actually happening. You won't fall for exaggerations and drama. If it's drama 9 or 10 times, it's not even anywhere near the truth. And you won't miss out on benefits of home ownership. I can't even stress that enough. People waiting 10 years to go in just the right time. Meanwhile, house prices have increased by 50% and they're never going to get in. Don't be left out like that. 2 is the point of knowing the process of what I just walked you through. There are 2 lists, and I like talking about this specifically. It's a psychological thing. In life in general, over the past few years, there's always a top 10 list of most enjoyable things, most fun things to do. We're talking about marriage, having kids, and going out to see homes. That's why people go to see homes that aren't even looking for a house. I've had people show up at my open houses. They have no interest in selling or buying or anything. They just want to see the house because it's cool. It's fun. It's fun and enjoyable. Now, that's you guys. And that will be you guys when you're looking for real estate. However, there's also another list. The other list includes things like divorce, death, public speaking, and actually buying a house. That is a list of the most stressful things. And buying a home can be incredibly stressful. Imagine for a second that while you're still on the happy list, like you should be right now or will be when you're actually looking, you actually know everything. You got the whole process in advance. You know exactly what the steps are. You know about the deposit. You know about the inspection. There's nothing catching you off guard. So that when you go to this, when you see the one house you want to buy, and you go from the happy list to the stressed out list because you're about to get a $500,000 mortgage, holy cow, like, wait a second, yeah, big deal. However, we know exactly what's happening. And we got people like Sam, like Joe, like myself to walk us through the whole process. I want you guys to be less stressful in that process. So it's actually not the most stressful things in life. Maybe it's the least or one of the less stressful things. That's why we do this. So you guys know in advance what's happening. And whenever you buy, be it next month or in 2 or 3 years, maybe you'll remember some of this. And certainly if you can come in touch with us, you'll know that as well. So that's that. And now, folks, the Q&A, I'll unshare myself here and you guys ask questions. And yes, Warren, Victor, hope you guys are still on. We will get to those questions as well.
All right, great presentation. That was a lot of good information.
There's a lot of information.
Yeah, it was a lot. But again, like we're both saying, it's super important. We don't need you guys to memorize all this. The important thing is that we know it. So reaching out to us, we'll do all that back work for you and explain the process as we're going through it. Okay, so there's to be quite a bit of questions, so we'll start chipping away here. So Devorn asks, is rent to own a safe option if someone doesn't have a down payment but wants to get a foot in the door into owning a home? Yeah, so this is a question that comes up quite a bit. It definitely can be a good option if you're looking to fix some credit, or even during the process of engaging in a rent to own like lease. It can build your down payment for buying that home. The only thing is, if you don't plan on actually buying that home, then you'll lose the money that you've put in those rent payments, because a portion of it goes towards the equity. You lose that equity that you've built up. But again, if you're struggling to get that down payment, it is actually a really good option to start progressing towards getting your own home, for sure.
That's good. I would also add that the board and everybody else, there is some down payment involved. Very few rent owns will start with zero down, so to speak. Quite often, in fact, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like $5,000 to $10,000 quite often to get things kind of rolling. So yeah, there is some skin in the game, if you will. And I will echo what Sam said. Very important in the rent zone specifically is you want the house to be one that you actually want, at least for the next few years. It's very important. It's because it is a commitment. And like Sam said, if you don't fulfill that commitment, if other things happen, if you haven't really thought out your game plan for the next few years, you could lose quite a bit of money in terms of you'll basically be renting, and you'll lose the rent because it'll go to nothing. So it's important to do that as well. It's important to have a reputable lender, a reputable investor, I should say, company or group that does the rent to own. Sam and Joe know some folks, as do I. You want to make sure that they're reputable and good, because unfortunately, it's very, in that specific position, rent to own, it's very easy, as Sam knows, to take advantage of you, the buyer / tenant, because some of those contracts can lean very heavy towards the investor, which make money on it, rightfully so, but it leans really to them and not so much to you. So It's certainly worth a look. That's the way you can get into the door. You get into the door, but you have to go in eyes wide open, so to speak, as Sam was saying, knowing exactly it's a commitment, and you definitely want to make sure that you know what you're doing and getting into.
Yeah, that's great. So thanks for that question, Ron. Thanks for the extra input, Andrew. Yeah, so Victor, if a couple is buying for the first time, the exemption for first-time buyer is $4,000 or $8,000. Can claim both. If that's for the first-time buyer tax, which is what you can claim, it's actually once per home. If it is what I think that you're asking about.
Yeah, Victor, it sounds like you may be talking about either the tax exemption or maybe the land transfer tax, because those numbers are similar. In fact, Sam, people ask that anyway. The land transfer tax, is it for somebody in Toronto, for example, it's $4,000 plus $3,000 something for each person, or for both as a couple?
For both.
For both, okay.
Yeah.
So your max is almost $8,000 if you're two people.
I believe so. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, it does have that boost if you're getting it in Toronto. They'll kick you that extra $3,700. So again, it's another incentive to buy in Toronto, where again, like you're saying, it's never a bad time to buy in Toronto. You can get that extra, almost double the amount just getting in Toronto.
Okay.
So another question here.
Yes, Sam, there's a couple of questions. The one, I think somebody else a little bit later, they mentioned a certain amount of rent that they're paying right now. Where do they start? The only thing answer I had was talk to yourself or Joe. And honestly, guys, that's not a way out of the question. These sounds would probably have a answer for you. But one of the best things you do, because each and every one of your cases is going to be specific. You're paying this much amount of rent, but maybe you can afford this much mortgage, or maybe you have this much down, or that kind of thing. Everybody's situation is different, and again, getting a game plan is big. But Sam, I know you deal with folks like that. First, the down payment's a biggie. So what advice would you have?
Yeah, for sure. So if you're currently renting, a great thing to do is just immediately start saving for that down payment, because that is going to be the biggest hurdle. If you're not you're not able to make, a mortgage qualification based on, credit or down payment, start saving for that right of way. Again, as Andrew was saying, reach out and chat with us, because each case is quite different, whether, depending on what your income is, what kind of assets you're looking for. It could look quite differently. So again, reaching out to us, we can start to get the process of pre-approval, even just a pre-qualification, to see sort of where your range is in qualifying for a mortgage. And then with, continual communication and follow-up with you, we can kind of narrow down what your best game plan is, whether it's to add a co-signer or to join, rent-to-own programs, because that can also help a lot in kind of jumping the gap to qualifying for a home. If you're renting, you even have down payment, but maybe it's credit, or you have some loans. Adding a co-signer to your mortgage application can really help boost what you can afford. And again, it doesn't have to be, it can just be a temporary co-signer. We see a lot of people drifting that way to really get over that hump of getting into a home. Because I think a lot of these questions are based on, how can they proceed based on what their rent is. So again, there's lots of different options that you can take. But again, saving for a down payment would be a big thing to start as soon as you can, and reach out to us to see, what your next best step would be based on your scenario.
Yeah, it's a topic that always comes up. Responsible people that make money and they have good credit, that's hence the responsible part. The down payment's the big. And as Sam said, it's definitely worth calling them and find out. You know what? It's sometimes it's more like a brainstorm session. We ask literally we can just sit there and go, okay, you have any family members, somebody that can loan you money? For example, say somebody you trust, you can loan you money for a certain amount of time. even if it's just a year. You can pay him appreciation, you can pay him the interest on it, and then as your home appreciates in value, you refinance or something, and you can pay them the money right away. You know where it is, you know where the house is, you know, it depends on your relationship with that person. Co-signing, same thing. If this is somebody you know and trust, and they're financially capable, and they don't never have any plans of doing anything in the near future, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they help you co-sign for a temporary time, like Sam said? So these are the kind of things you want to brainstorm, because there are a lot of ways out. At worst, you got to wait a little bit. But again, Sam, Joe, they'll give you a game plan to do it. And the game plan is the biggest, eh? It's so much easier to get motivated and find money out of nowhere sometimes when you actually have a game plan. You know what? In 10 months, I'm going to be able to buy a house. So I'm going to work my butt off for the time being. And if a lot of people have done that, by the way, and it's really worked well to their credit.
Yeah.
Oh, Sam,
Sure.
LOC. How much will an LOC impact eligible mortgage amount?
So again, this depends on what kind of assets you have to offset your loans. If you have quite a substantial line of credit, it can actually affect, you know, what you can qualify for right up front. If it's, you know, a lower end, then, you know, it's workable. But again, they're all very case to case. It will definitely impact how much you're eligible for. But again, it depends on, you know, what the amount of the line of credit is. You know, typically we see it affect for sure. If it's, we had a client that had almost $45,000 on a line of credit that was maxed, and it really hurt, you know, how much he could afford. So it does affect, it depends on, you know, what you have to offset that in household income, as well as whatever assets you have, any types of, you know, savings that you can work around with that. But
yeah. There's a question here, Sam. Probably to everyone, do you do Durham area, Pickering, Ajax, or Oshawa? Me, yeah, I'm all over the place. I actually live in Pickering. I do Durham all the time. Durham is great for first-time home buyers. And while you don't get the double land transfer tax rebate, you do get enough, because you guys might not know, in Peel, York, and Durham, there's only one land transfer tax, the provincial one. In Toronto, you have the double tax. Now, you also get more than, not quite double, but close to double land transfer tax rebate as a first-time home buyer. However, most first-time home buyers, and Aisha, this might answer your question a little bit too, most first-time home buyers tend to be in the mid 300s to like 500. The ones I work with, that's the price range they're usually in. And the land transfer tax rebate covers quite a bit of that. So if you're around $400,000 in terms of property, most of the land transfer tax, if not all, is going to be covered by the rebate. So you actually want to end up paying it. So yes, I work in Durham. Sam and Joe are remote. They can work, trust me, they're easy to work with. They're online anyway. They can certainly work anywhere. And Aisha, your question as to minimum down payment, there is the 5%. 5% is down. Usually, again, it depends if you're qualified and everything in terms of your credit and employment. It's for first-time homebuyers, it's 5% down, and closing costs is going to be land transfer tax and lawyer. Lawyers assume about $1,500, $1,500. Sometimes it's less, maybe $1,200, $1,300. You know, depends on the lawyer you use. We've got lots of good ones. And then there's land transfer tax. But again, because of the rebate, land transfer tax might be very minimal. So in your mind, consider probably 5 to 6 to 7% overall for the price of the house. And it'll probably be less, but 5% down plus a little bit of closing costs in terms of land transfer and lawyer, and then you know, moving costs, whatever your moving costs will be. If you got movers, you got a big family, free. So I hope that helps a little bit. But again, the first-time homebuyers tend to be 300 to 500. That's the range most people are. So 5% of that. 315, 525,000.
I'm seeing a couple of questions here about COVID, one from John and another one somewhere. I think I lost it, but about getting pre-approvals done. So it does depend on what the lender's policy is. A lot of them are still continuing with pre-approvals, and that if they get a letter from your work saying that you will be hired back, whether you're temporary laid off or you've moved, reduced hours, whatever it is, if they are willing to accept it, they'll need some sort of letter saying you're going to be back at this specific time to your regular job. But again, we're seeing a little bit of varied results depending on what the lender is. But yeah, they're trying to be as approachable as they can with the circumstance to try and get you into a home.
Yeah. Oh, Sam, can you go over the 222 rule again, please?
Yeah, so if you've gone through a consumer proposal or bankruptcy, banks aren't going to lend you anything unless you have a minimum of 2 credit cards with $2,000 on them for a minimum of 2 years. So again,
Gotcha.
the 2-year portion is what we see a lot. If you have even just poor credit, they'll tell you come back in 2 years. If you've had, some sort of issue where you haven't made payments, there's been, real demerits on your credit score. 2 years seems to be what they look for. Again, if you don't have that kind of time, or it is quite a bit to climb back from, we can look at going with alternative lenders to get you a mortgage as well. That'll have a little bit more flexible options, but that'll be the 222
Gotcha.
rule.
Thanks, Sam. The other one here, Victor's asking, if he puts down 20% and avoids the CMHC insurance, does he get more rebates if he goes less than 20%? I don't think so. I know land transfer tax still applies, HST applies if it's a new one. Sam, is there any difference really other than that?
No, so the only one that you wouldn't be able to apply for is the first-time homebuyer incentive. They have that one maxed at 20,000. So again, if they give you the 5,000, you can put up to, 14.99% of your own money to stay under the 20%. But I believe that's the only one that will, make you ineligible if you have 20% down.
Yeah, the 20% down is smart if depending on how much money in cash you have, because obviously you're saving thousands of dollars in terms of overall mortgage with the CMHC insurance. The only thing I would say is because interest rates are low, as Sam has mentioned, interest rates are low right now, and depending on how much down payment you actually have, sometimes just for life purposes, it might be better to go with a lower, pay the CMHC insurance premiums, but you'll be able to get more of a house. What I mean by that is some people come to me, they'll have 20% down or more. Well, that's awesome. So, okay, with that, how much is your price? And they're like 350, 400. I'm like, okay, we're limited with that kind of price in the GTA. So for someone like that, for example, you might be better. And I know they'll be, you'll be doing the insurance thing, unfortunately, but you can always refinance later. But you have a much more open option if you at 5% because now you can afford whatever, that kind of thing. So it depends on what you're looking for as well. What kind of property and how much down. I mean, if you have 20% down of $1 million, hey, listen, we can do some good old shopping. But yeah, it's a case by case as well. And yeah, clearly it makes sense to do the no insurance and save money. Absolutely. Let's see. 20% down, Sam, but laid off because of the COVID situation. Does 20% make a big difference in terms of pre-approval? Are lenders looking at you differently?
Yeah. So again, anything that'll give you, sort of an edge to getting. I mean, again, it'll depend on. It'll affect your qualifying rate based on how much you're able to put down. So again, because if your down payment is more, then your mortgage value is actually lowered, so it increases the room of how much you can borrow. So again, putting 20% down is going to save you in the long run because you're taking a bigger bite of the property value and have less of a mortgage. But again, qualifications, it is better to have 20%, but it's not mandatory or necessary. You can very easily qualify just as simply with 5% down as well.
Okay. Oh, Victor, yeah, you were talking about land transfer tax. Yeah, almost 8,000. It's 7,700 something in Toronto, or 4,000 outside of Toronto, which actually equates pretty much the same thing because the land transfer tax difference. Devorn asked, Oh yeah, Sam, Devorn asked a question here at 3:18 at the time. Someone did get a consumer proposal finding it difficult to get approved for a credit card. You and Joe have some credit card options, don't you? As I recall, am I wrong?
We do. If Joe's on, that's maybe a better question for Joe to.
The man himself. Joe, credit cards. Talk to me.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't want to pop on because Sam was just killing the questions there with you, Andrew. But yeah, the credit cards, we have credit cards available for anyone that has gone through a consumer proposal or bankruptcy that are guaranteed approval. And we can send you out those applications. Just contact Sam or myself after the webinar. And they help you build your credit. The only difference that they like it's a Visa card, and the only difference is compared to a regular credit card is that they require a deposit. So once you are finished using that credit card and close it, they'll refund your deposit, and you're all good to go. But they work wonders for reestablishing credit, because it's really hard to get a credit card approval without a deposit after consumer proposal. So once you get that, then it establishes the baseline and you're good to go.
Nice. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I think that's everybody. Oh, Victor, good question. Why do banks normally offer low rates for high ratio loans? I think you might have already answered your question by just the question answers the question, actually.
Well, if I can pop in, yeah. High ratio means that there's CMHC, right? So it's a great question. And yeah, because you're paying the insurance, the bank's taking less risk, and they pass those savings on to you as the client.
Yeah. It's kind of like they buy the car, but you pay their insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we lost some folks, but any other questions, guys? Aisha, glad you made it. I'm glad you got the link, I guess. Good stuff. Thank you for the questions. Guys, thank you for all the questions. We got more? Oh, fabulous.
Hey, Andrew, Devon wants you to check his question.
Oh, that's right. You're the full-time question. Yeah, Devon, sorry about that. Yeah, so you're thinking of, now, again, my answer, unfortunately, is well, not unfortunately, but is definitely first talk to Sam or Joe, or both, and find out specifically how much is coming in, how much the expenses are, and what you can do. Because rent to own, again, rent to own sometimes works. It definitely can be a starting point. But even then, there's certain requirements for rent to own. So it's, as full-time students, Joe, Sam, how does that work in terms of full-time students? If they have, they don't have, do you guys have, Devon, do you guys have any income coming in at all? Ah, okay. Oh, PSW, healthcare. It's a big field right now. Okay.
For the students, I would just add that usually if it's a student, like if the student has a job with an income with guaranteed hours, we can use that. But usually the student's income with the guaranteed hours is typically not enough to qualify on a home for themselves. So usually we have to add a cosigner temporarily, at least until the student finishes school.
Mm.
And then we say if the school is only a year long, then we can add the temporary cosigner for a year. They can get their dream house or whatever house they are looking for now, and then they can remove the cosigner in 1 year, and they're all good to go.
And speaking of cosigners, Aisha is asking, is the cosigner is the cosigner considered a first-time home buyer also? You guys can answer that. My idea is no. They'd have to be unless there's somebody who has not owned a home in the past 4 years or so. So if they're not a first-time home buyer, only the other person would be able to apply for the HST and the land transfer tax rebates. I know you guys know that better than I do.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it is. As cosigners, they don't qualify for the first-time buyer rebates. And Sam, I don't know if you want to jump in at all, but usually we can set it up so that, say if your cosigner is your mom or dad, we can set them up as a 1% owner and you're 99%. So you're going to essentially, in that case, get 99% of the benefit of the rebates and credits. And even though your parent owns 1%, and they're a cosigner, you only lose 1% of the benefits that way.
Wow, I don't know that actually. Yeah.
It's
okay. There's a lot of options.
Yeah, there are some benefits that are not cut and dry like that. We would have to look at it, but the main ones, yes.
Yeah. Good question. So yeah, there's a lot of options. One of the reasons I was working with guys like Joe and Sam is there are options, and the only people that are going to actually go through all the options are somebody who are actually looking out for your interest. And, and they don't get business until you do something. And so yeah, we do a lot of brainstorming. There's a lot of brainstorming involved, especially first-time homebuyers, just to get you in. There's so many different factors involved, and you definitely want to know what those are, because you know what? At least you can plan ahead. And, you can talk to somebody who possibly is a co-signer. But until you know exactly what that entails, you might not even want to do it. So definitely get a hold of these two guys.
Alrighty. I don't know if there's any more questions.
Oh, do we actually do the rent-to-own program? Well, Joe, Sam, you guys have direct access to that. I have a few folks that do that, but they're investors. But you guys have access to that as well.
Yeah, we do. We have rent-to-own programs. The investors that I have access to want to limit their house prices to $500,000 in that area, so it's hard to find something. Yeah,
okay. Doable. It'll probably be out in Durham or something.
Yep, and typically you need a 8 to 10 month rent deposit up front, and that goes towards your down payment. Whoops.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 to 10 months up front. And then that way it goes towards your down payment, and every month you pay rent, there's a portion that goes towards your down payment as well. So maybe, Andrew, you have different investors in that area that could help some folks.
Oh, it's pretty much the same thing. There's a certain down. There's a certain down, and usually it ends up being about $8,000 to $10,000. And there's a premium off your monthly rent that goes towards the down payment, as does the upfront costs. But again, that premium, you could easily lose that if you don't stay with the program for the allotted time. They work out the numbers to see how long you need to be in the rent-to-own, be it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. For the key for the person doing it, you want to make sure that you're committed for the long haul. How do I contact everyone? Good question. Very carefully. I'll put my info in the chat. You guys can do that as well. Yeah, here we go. That's me. And yeah, all you guys should have had an email from me and from Sam and Joe as well. So our info is on there as well. Reach out, guys. In all seriousness, I kind of forgot to mention that after I finished speaking my presentation. Next step, guys, definitely give Sam and Joe a call. There's Sam's info. Give Sam a call. That's the starting point. And if you have questions about anything, feel free to call me. But the actual doing of something, it's going to be with Sam. Give him a shout right there on the number. And we'll be following up anyway, so just in case.
Yeah.
It's what we do. So, okay. So I guess that's it. Warren, Aisha, you're very welcome. Glad both of you guys made it onto the call. And we lost some folks already, but yeah, the rest of you guys, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And Sam, Joe, thank you guys as always.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, guys. That's it. Everybody out.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye, guys.